Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another deck discussion. Today, we're going to talk about this Kennen list that my friend here, Vishay, has built, and he's been playing recently at some Nexus Nights and some locals, and obviously, of course, against me and ruining my day. So he's going to tell you guys about how to ruin your opponent's days with this Kennen list. So, Vishay, you want to introduce yourself and kind of give a...
Yeah, sure. Been playing the Kennen list now since we saw the release for Vendetta. Been very excited to play the purple-yellow color combination. It is as disgusting as everyone thought it would be, so there's not really any wrong way to do it, but there's a lot of different ways to build this deck. I took the kind of miracle approach that I thought went for the most consistency, which seems like an oxymoron, to be honest with you, but lots of 2-ofs and 3-ofs. The only 1-of I think that I'm really considering is this Tail-Cloaked Matriarch, because that card seems really, really good. Get Kennen back from the trash or get a Fizz back from the trash. Can't complain, but went for most consistency, trying to play Nocturne off the top and then cash value on Rasa and then end with Baron. So easy staples here, 3-ofs on Lightning Rush stacked deck. And the seals, the most controversial part of this deck is definitely the low-end units. Right now, I've got this Tide Turner is 2-of. I like it. It empowers Kennen when you play it from hidden, but I don't know if it's a 2-of, 1-of, or 3-of, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it seems really good, like, with your ganking unit, like Nocturne or...
Yeah,
Also,
the most value I got from it was actually with Traveling Merchant. So it was multiple times on turns 2, 3, and 4. I was like, oh, okay, I'll move Traveling Merchant 2, maybe 3 times this turn. When we played the last, what was that, Nexus Night or Summoner Skirmish?
It was a Nexus Night that we went to.
Nexus Night. We did that last Nexus
felt
Night.
like a Summoner Skirmish.
Right, it did. Oh my gosh, it was really competitive. But I can't complain. I mean, I was playing a competitive deck too.
Yeah.
On turn 2 or 3, multiple games, I did a double conquer with Traveling Merchant, Tide Turner, shenanigans. I played Ride the Wind a couple times here just because that card maxes out at the max value is 2 points a turn. And I was like, okay, I can get it on turn 3 instead of turn 7. That's probably worth trying at least one time. It was really, really good. I didn't think my opponent was expecting that. And then I got to fill up my trash with the Merchant, move it back with Tide Turner, move it again with Ride the Wind, move it back again. So 4 discard draw effects in a single turn by playing Tide Turner and playing Ride the Wind. So I developed my board, get 2 points, discard 4, draw 4.
Yeah, I mean, and Tide Turner has so much utility too, like as just a retreat slot. Like you can always move in your Kennen and, get a spell. Okay, I don't see something that I want to see right now. Okay, let me play my Tide Turner and base for 2. My Kennen's safe off a battlefield. Like this just seems like really solid in this deck. I can see why you're having difficulty seeing it because you don't have a lot of move triggers, but it's just such a good card.
Oh, for sure. And, I've thought about it since I'm not running any copies of Flash. I thought about going to 3 Tide Turners because that's the same slot, right? Protection piece. It just functions a little differently. And I love to play early units and just try to out-tempo my opponent.
Yeah, that's how I prefer to play most of my purple decks as well. And the other thing is like if you go to 3 Ride the Wind, like opening hands, you have to bottom a Ride the Wind. Like if you...
For sure. That feels terrible.
Tide Turner? Nah, I'm keeping that. Honestly, I've kept two Tide Turners in hand with my Draven deck at least before. Because it's like...
Yeah, that was one of the hands I looked at actually at the last event we went to. There was 1 Traveling Merchant and 2 Tide Turners, and I was like, okay, I'll keep those 3. I think I had pulled Baron off the top as well, and I put the Baron to the bottom because I was like, okay, I don't need that to win if I'm doing this instead. And sure enough, I mean, we cashed in the crazy value there on that. I think I played Rasa for free on turn 5, like maybe 2 Rasas that game.
Gosh, yeah. The way that you can
just obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, so I also see that you have only 2 of the Tentacles card, and I feel like that's kind of a contested choice because everyone's saying this is like a 3-of must force every purple deck plays.
So my problem is that I'm running 3 of the Treasure Hunter as well. So that is my 1 might unit that has reasonable text on it. That Up from the Deep card is so good. Don't get me wrong. It is easily one of the best cards printed in Vendetta. Something about that feels incorrectly statted despite it being a 3 energy spell to only make 2 might. It's just nasty. Multiple times playing in events, that card has been the difference maker. Being able to just do it, I'll cast it from my hand and then I'll flow it from the trash. Empower Kennen, I've got 4 tentacles, I'll swing my Traveling Merchant into you, activate Kennen ability, now that swings as a 4. If you do something about it, next turn I still have 4 might to swing with. It's just vile. I was like, okay, this can't be allowed. I thought about going to 3 of, but honestly, I'm running 3 of Fizz,
I
and
see.
I don't really want to play up from the deep as the thing I'm doing this game. Like, it's a
Yeah.
value piece and gets me out of a spot more often than not. So I like it as 2 of. I feel like it becomes a crutch at 3 of. I'm also not going to put another spell in the deck over a unit because I have last rights, 2 of those in the deck. I need more things to hit with that if I'm going to commit to playing that. And I think that's a super undervalued card, despite it being in every Kennen list as at least a 1 of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a fantastic card in general in this list. I mean, because your trash is always full of stuff. You can play Rasa for 0 all the time with this last rites. Like the way that you can just go onto a battlefield with a Rasa, it dies, like trade with somebody else's unit, then come in with your smaller unit with last rites on
Yep.
it and get back the Rasa for nothing. Like that's a line that you can already do. Like comboing that up with like playing a Fizz, getting like more value. Oh my gosh. Like, and it's
Yeah,
all on such low margins, like the energy costs on these.
yeah, it's really easy to do some of these lines. It doesn't take a lot of, extremely complex gameplay. A lot of it is just I'm playing for value. I do the most high value thing I can do on my turn, and it kind of just plays itself. There are some nuances once you put 20 cards in your trash on how you choose to layer your triggers, especially when playing multiple copies of Fizz or Starcrossed in a turn, but that's no different than that Diana Shell ran for the longest time in the Unleashed meta. So I think that in the Vendetta meta, it's a little bit the same, but instead of playing it with blue and Hui triggers, we're doing Nocturne and Rasa things. But really, it's value, 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 cash in to do a thing. Diana
Yeah.
deck did a Hui thing and move your units to you. The Kennen deck just out tempos you. It plays Nocturnes for free, it plays Rasas for free, and says, I'm going to cast a bullshit spell and move everything around. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm like looking over here, I'm looking at like your curve, for example. I mean, realistically, you have 4 cards that are ever going to cost 4 energy.
Yep.
Like you have the tail cloaked, you have the harrowing, and you have Baron. Because like Nocturnes, you're probably going to play for a power most of the time, and same for Rasas.
And I like this curve, and I previously had in the deck 1 copy of Vex Apathetic, which is now in the sideboard,
Yeah,
and
see this.
what we can get to the sideboard
Yeah.
and talk about that. But I don't think that it's a must put in the deck. I think it's phenomenal in some matchups, but I've reasoned that this Kennen list can probably just steal game 1 most times. So I don't need to necessarily have that in the deck because there are some matchups I don't want to play Vex Apathetic. Like it's just okay. Yeah, but I mean, against all of those, sprite-based decks or the decks that want to move things right away,
Yeah.
I think it's good against Diana, Lilia, any of those tempo decks that can try to keep up with what Kennen is doing. Slotting it in there feels really strong on turn 2, just to slam it down and say, you have to answer this now instead of what my deck wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Vex is kind of just that ultimate. You play it, and there's half of the decks out there just stop working. It's an immediate, like, grind to a halt for some decks. That's a great sideboard card. We'll look at your sideboard in a second, because I actually I've been seeing some discourse on this harrowing card, so I wanted to know, like, in your play experience, how is that card faring for you? Because everybody is saying that this is a bait card.
So really, the harrowing is good because it escapes the premier counter spells in the game. It's not defiable. It's challenging to play interaction on. I was like, okay, if my opponent plays Abandon, I'll do it again next turn. I don't care. I'm running 3 purple seals. I probably haven't invested, Rune recycling into playing this card.
Yeah.
Abandoned is fine. Hard bargain, I can usually pay for it. And I think the line here is just to get Baron again. Often you'll need to discard a card. It feels okay to just pitch Baron, knowing that I'm likely to draw the harrowing. And then I can play that, and, heaven forbid something happens to that. We have other recursion pieces in the deck.
Yeah.
So I think it's just another way to play Baron without paying 10 energy, which is kind of the goal here. I don't really care if I have to tap 2 of my seals that I've played to play the harrowing and then basically just throw away 4 runes if I get to play Baron. It also has the first matchup I played in our last Nexus night, I played the Kennen Mirror, and it was almost the same deck list. He had a few other one-ofs, but he played Baron first and won the game. And I was looking at it in my hand like, dang, if I had gone first in the die roll, I would have won the game.
Yeah.
So it's just really good. If the meta is going to be, hey, we're playing Kennen mirrors, great. Let me play a Baron Masher because that card just wins you a game sometimes. And that's all you need, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we just had Ottawa this last weekend, and the top three.
Right. How many Kennens in the top? Right. It's Kennen and Rek'Sai meta. I was like, okay, if Rek'Sai's going to come play Swarm, they're going to play that Under Titan, right? That gives all its units +2. I need something that does the same to keep up the beefiness. This is a great way to just boom, boom, boom. I'm going to play Baron from my trash. I'll go down to 2 runes. Who cares? Your go. Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I mean, that's a great line. I guess one other question I kind of have is I feel like treasure hunters and seal seems like a lot of like rune generation for a deck that's relatively speaking only playing 1 cost, 2 cost cards for the most part.
Yeah, the issue here is that this deck takes 40 game actions a turn. And often what I'm looking at is each of those game actions requires a power cost. I did play a few games and I have tested it where there's no treasure hunters in the deck. There's the 3 traveling merchants, 3 tide turners, 3 up from the deeps instead as my low end units. Again, the up from the deep making 1 might units. But I liked having the gold because often it would let me on the following turn crack the gold, play a seal, play a seal, play a fizz. And it's like, wow, okay, that seems pretty good for being able to just play my turn 1 unit. Like the tempo advantage I can get to then untap everything the next turn. Now it's turn 3. I have 6 or 7 runes, and 2 seals. Like, you're in a tough spot right now. If Baron's in my trash, this is a turn I can play Harrowing Baron right now. Like, it's what do you do? Because I didn't have to invest money into playing the seals. It just cost me the gold token that was made. And I like it because sometimes I am running an off balance of rune colors, 7/5, purple to yellow. I have Hidden Blades in this deck, and I love to play Hidden Blade from hand because it's not what my opponent is expecting. So if I have that gold up, I can just hold my 2 purple. If I don't get any yellow, it's really okay, and I can play Hidden Blade still. It's just a flexibility piece that I think gives me more value than any of the other 2-drops right now. If they print a better purple 2-drop, it would probably go in over Treasure Hunter.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I would think too. And yellow, there aren't really any 2-drops that really provide you much. Like for this game plan and this strategy that you would like consider running.
Yeah, there's just nothing to do on the low end in yellow. I mean, you could play the Channel a Rune Bird, I guess, with Death Knell, the Soaring Scout, but that does the same thing but worse here because what if you channel another purple rune?
Yeah, no, that's
right. Like
that's definitely worse. No, I totally agree with that actually. Well, let's move on to your sideboard because I see you have a lot of 1-ofs in this sideboard. In fact, you have 8 unique cards in the sideboard.
Yeah. The sideboard is interesting. Initially, right off the bat here, the 3rd copy of Hidden Blade and 3rd copy of Up from the Deep live here. Both of those, again, basically the premier low-end spell in their color right now. A sort of perfect stack deck in purple, obviously. But it felt wrong to not at least have access to those. There are absolutely games where I'm okay with playing Up from the Deep, 8 times a game. Like, it's not a problem.
Yeah, and I mean,
for me,
I see you've got this Imperial Decree here too, and honestly, I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow, I mean, you might even be able to sneak in a second Imperial Decree in this sideboard, and there's just...
It is definitely... That is the most recent tech that I have put in this sideboard. Couple times when I was playing last, I looked at my hand and said, I need only 1 card to win the game right here, and it's Imperial Decree. And I could not get over that because I was like, oh my gosh, my opponent has done their thing really well. One of the best things about Riftbound right now as a game is that most of the times you get to play your deck, and it may not be as bad or as good as your opponent's deck or be able to win, but you get to do something. Well, if my opponent does something, even on an off-meta deck or on something that's not as optimized, they can produce more power than me, often. Like, double Noxus Hopeful in 1 turn is tough for this Kennen deck, because that starts at a 4, and most of those decks have a way to make it 7 with Cleave or something else. So I said, okay, in that scenario, I could put in my Vex Apathetic, my 3rd copy of Up from the Deep, and a copy of Imperial Decree. Because once I make 4 tentacle tokens and play Imperial Decree, I can wipe your battlefields if you go for a double hold, ever. Yeah. So I have the answer. I have the silver bullet to the decks that can get around Kennen by getting a little fortunate on their draws and their early game execution. Especially now that Rek'Sai, I mean, look at those Ottawa results again. Now that Rek'Sai is coming into the meta heavy, that could be a card that
Yeah.
really makes an appearance in sideboards.
Yeah, I could see more of that for sure. Downwell, that's like just obvious. I'm interested in that over Ruination though. Isn't Ruination cheaper energy cost?
Ruination is cheaper, but Downwell is better because I get to put all my put Rasa back in my hand and then just keep going. And
Yeah.
if I put your that's also a card that actually acts as gear hate. So playing against Aurora matchups, that's extra good.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
what I was about to ask. How's the Aurora matchup? I feel like
it's
deck just
perfect.
stomps on it, right?
Oh my gosh, they can do nothing. I've never considered it being an issue. Mind you, I haven't played one in a serious setting. I played online one time. It was really easy. Game one, I won because they didn't hit Aurora, and game two, I played 2 copies of gear removal on 2 copies of Aurora. So it was not a problem. It was actually 1 copy of gear removal, once from my hand and once with Fizz. So tough for those guys. I don't know what you do as an Aurora player into this matchup. I think you have to not play for Aurora, which sounds so crazy, but some of those decks, especially the Misfortune version, is capable of playing not to cast Aurora, but instead to maybe play a copy of like Mind Splitter and Misfortune and do some shenanigans there with Ride the Wind.
Yeah, but
That
like,
may be the way to stop the tempo, but man, I have all the answers to that.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, even with like Mind Splitter, like, okay, you discard the card. I
yeah,
can't
I don't
foresee
know.
that being
Like,
a
no,
problem
I
there.
don't know what you do. That's what I'm like. I think this deck is going to completely remove Aurora from the meta because there's no way to beat it. I think
Yeah.
unless you get really, really fortunate and can perfectly turn 1, 2, 3 Aurora, like that deck is capable of doing it, right? You do the channel a rune and then channel 2 runes the next turn and then play Aurora. Like if you do that and I have no answer in my hand and I can't draw one in the next 8 cards because that's what I'll look at on my turn because now it's turn 4 or 5. Uh, I think you could win, but that's really unlikely, right? Like this Kennen deck is going to look at 20 plus cards by the time you get to turn 6. So
Mm.
I think it's if you are playing against the Aurora matchup, Aurora should lose 8 times out of 10.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think so. And interesting, abandon over hard bargain. I've personally felt like hard bargain is just consistently better, I guess. But is it abandoning? Do you have it in to abandon your own spells? Is
It
that part
is.
of it?
It's the own spell
Yeah,
choice
I
option
was thinking that was
because
gonna do
the premier removal in this deck is Hidden Blade, which is defiable. And against especially decks like Proving Grounds Yi, I don't want to be playing um, defiable spells. So if you defy my Hidden Blade, I will abandon my own Hidden Blade and do it again. Like
Yeah,
this deck is okay with sacrificing its runes. It doesn't care. I'll do it. Who cares? And I get to predict if I hit a Nocturne, that's crazy value.
yeah,
So what's not to love? I also find that a lot of decks nowadays are being able to pay the money for hard bargain. It is only 2, and that's just
holding
okay,
a
right?
four.
Like there's a lot of, oh yeah, it could be 4. That's true.
But
But
holding a
the
four
thing
on
is,
your opponent's turn is
I
pretty
don't want
crazy.
to play, right. I was gonna say, I don't want to hold more than 2. That's where this deck likes to play is I'll hold up 2 for your turn and I'll just dump out my stuff. Good luck. So I don't think it's worth playing hard bargain over abandon because you can't put my own spells back in your hand. And against those decks that have, of course, thousands and thousands of rune open all the time, it's like, all right, cool. You can just pay the money and we're back to square one. I think this gives you a little bit more ways to play.
Yeah, I mean, I see that I'm just now looking at this, and outside of your sideboard, you only have 2 actual order cards in the whole deck. I mean, not including Lightning Rush. So I just think it's kind of funny that this deck is just like the best purple cards and an extra set of stack deck, but it just works so well. Like it's actually crazy.
Yeah, it is totally nuts. I think this is one that this Kennen deck is going to be in the meta for a long time unless something gets banned from it. There is a way too many areas to improve this list even now, and it's broken. Like this is definitely a tier 0 deck in my opinion, or at least high tier 1. Um, and I think, if they print better order cards, this deck can only
Yeah.
win from that. If they get a better card than that up from the deep in order, that would be a slot in for sure. The up
Yeah.
from the deep is just value. But if they print something that's an order card that makes more tokens, or it does something else that's super valuable from your trash, like that could totally go in here. The other card that I see some folks trying to do is say, no, I'm playing zero order cards. I'll play a copy of Ilaoi, 3 copies of Ride to Win, 3 copies of Up from the Deep, and just boom, 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 churn, play a big Ilaoi and move it around.
Yeah.
I think that version's not as good. I would rather just play better
This seems
cards.
very consistent. This seems like a very consistent deck. How are the battlefields? Any these 3 are obviously very solid battlefields. Minefields on Orange, Candlelit Sanctum, but I feel like Kennen can play like another 10 battlefields and they're still all good.
Yeah, the options, there are a few. There's that Shadow Temple battlefield now from Vendetta that when you hold here, burn 3. That's kind of a hate battlefield sometimes, especially against decks that don't have a way to pull stuff from the trash. But if you're playing against the Kennen Mirror, which I think is more likely, you shouldn't be playing that because those decks will take it to their advantage and put copies of Lightning Rush in the trash, which is really not where you want to be. I think the minefields a must include. The Candlelit Sanctum I go back and forth on. That's it's good, but every Rek'Sai list, every Kennen list wants that battlefield as well. So that may be an area to improve because it is just okay. It is just 2 cards, but I don't know. It seems like it's too much value to pass up. And then when I hit the Nocturne off of it, man, is it nasty. Like,
yeah, it is. Yeah, so I was gonna say, obviously, me and Vishay here play at the same local meta. He's someone who goes to the same game stores as me, so I know that next time we go to that game store, Vishay, there's gonna be half of the table is Renekton or not Rek'Sai. So I would probably be hesitant on having a Candlelit Sanctum in my main board for like the Rek'Sai decks because that's like the same thing as giving the Diana deck another Abandon Hall game.
Right. So this is where then of course, it'll vary based on local meta, but since our meta is very reactionary to what the overall meta comes out to be in terms of tournaments and stuff, I know it will be influenced by Ottawa results like you're talking about here. I think that Shadow Temple could be a sneaky include for Battlefield number 2 or 3. It's interesting. The Rek'Sai list obviously gets no value from it because you're just burning stuff right to the trash. I don't think that deck is running much recursion, if any. So it feels like it can only be a plus for me, right? I can bin copies of Lightning Rush and spells I can hit with Fizz. Okay, great. The Rek'Sai deck basically doesn't even want to go there.
So is the order Minefield, Blind, and then Candlelit first, Sonwarn second?
I think so. If you're playing, that's my preferred way to go. But that Candlelit Sanctum is definitely a flex first battlefield, to be honest with you. I can't remember if it's you get to see what your matchup is first before going, but against any off meta or tier 3 or less deck, I would say you could feel pretty strong about starting either Candlelit Sanctum or a Minefield. There are some nuance to how you may get more EV from playing one battlefield over the other. For example, if you're playing 3 copies of Up from the Deep, you definitely play Minefield first, regardless of what your matchup is, because you have more things to pull from your trash. This list, I think, wants to maybe it may play Minefield first, it may play Candlelit Sanctum first. It kind of depends on what the matchup is, and if Candlelit Sanctum even stays in the deck because of what that Rek'Sai list looks like it's going to do right now.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying out. You probably are supposed to generally blind mine because
probably.
I'm pretty sure you don't know what your opponent is playing till after you pick battlefields, or at least that's how it's supposed to go. All of my experiences, I've always had a blind battlefield, and then I've had like a going first and a going.
I think you're right. I can't remember for the life of me, but I think you are correct. And if that is the case, then I would probably just be blinding Minefield every single game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this deck looks really interesting. I'm very interested to see, obviously it did not win the Ottawa tournament, but I don't think that winning is necessarily something that should get a deck underwatch because like Prismat just won with the Rengar deck, and like people weren't really looking at the Rengar deck before. I don't really know if there's going to be many more people looking at it afterwards. Maybe a few more. But at the end of the day, like most people know, Prisma is a good player, so he's gonna perform on like any deck. So I'm just
player skill is definitely the most decisive part of any matchup. I think there's a lot of, and this is again one of my favorite things about playing Riftbound, is that there does not seem to be a deck, maybe There is obviously, but
Yeah.
there are so many decks you could play and at least have a viable deck list together with a plan that you can execute. Again,
Yeah.
you have different levels of win rate, but I think it's so cool that you can come with, there's probably 8 legends right now you could play and say, yeah, I've got a fair shot of winning, like maybe
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I think it's at least 8. There's definitely meta is pretty wide in this game, at least compared to other card games like Magic, where we come from,
For sure.
where there's like, maybe 2 or 3 decks that are in rotation with maybe 1 or 2 variants. But yeah, I mean, I think this deck looks really interesting. I'm really interested to see how it shakes out. You and I are about to go to an event tomorrow.
Yep.
You're going to be playing this again. I'm going to be playing my Kali deck, so we'll maybe post some results about that.
Yeah, that would be nice. That Akali deck looks good. I like the Ken and Akali matchup is actually interesting. That's one where I think you could actually benefit from not having so many copies of the other spells and playing one Vex Apathetic because I like the idea of being able to stun the things you play and make
Yeah.
you choose what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
it seems very good.
And a lot of times with that deck, the signature spell ends up just reading like accelerate for the next unit you play or the first unit you
Right.
play this turn, like half the time because it costs as much as accelerate. And it and
Yeah,
it,
no,
it
for sure.
effectively
It's just
does
a good
exactly
way
that.
to screw with you a little bit. Like it's one more thing to consider and work around that it's like, wow, it's so annoying
Yeah.
of a card, honestly. I don't know how most decks could deal with that. And if you want to
Yeah,
remove it, it's got
like
deflect. Like I can't
yeah,
believe they
I
put so much
couldn't kill
text
it.
on that
I
card.
couldn't kill it with my falling star without losing 4 entire
Right? Like
rings.
how crazy
Like
is that? Put back
that card
4 runes to
has
kill
to
Vex
be void
Apathetic?
seeker, I guess. Like that's the
My deck puts back
justification
4
for
runes to
void
play
seeker.
Baron. Like
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like totally different levels of
the
costs there.
it's just insane. Like there's not many positive EV plays my opponent can make when I play Vex Apathetic into matchups where moving and playing units out of hand and being a little gimmicky are part of the strategy. I think Akali falls into that, realm where there's a super high skill ceiling, lots of different options, lots of ways to play it,
Yeah, it's a very
but that
flexible deck.
it can really easily be screwed with by kind of putting pressure points on some of the weaker parts of it. So that move ability is a little gimmicky relative to other move abilities because you're not
Yeah.
playing purple. You've
Right.
got some limitations
Right.
there. So if I play a card that makes it way harder to cash in on some of the value that your deck wants to do, you start to lose tempo in the margin. So it may not be that you lose a point necessarily, but it's like, oh, I can't hold that battlefield, so I get a point. Like it goes both ways of trying to play around it, and it makes you play slower, which makes me play faster.
Yeah.
The mind,
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think you could even maybe find another space for another one of those Vex in the sideboard, to be honest.
yeah, the sideboard is interesting. The copy of Switcheroo, I think, could be a Vex
I
apathetic,
like
but
that.
man, I am in love with the Switcheroo
I
text.
like I
Holy
like the
cow!
switcheroo. I've
It's
actually found myself putting switcheroo in most of my purple deck sideboards, especially with the fact that this was so shocking to me. People are still spamming this Proving Grounds Master Yi deck, and truthfully, like switcheroo seems to be one of our few solutions that's kind of absolute because like they can play all of their make this thing gigantic, their Fiora 30 might in one turn, but like all right, I switcheroo it like, and there's nothing. It's not defiable if you play it from hand.
Yeah,
Like,
the only card that I struggle with out of that is that darn Ruin Runner. Like
oh
I
my
can't switcheroo
gosh,
it. I
I
can't
hate
hidden
Rune.
blade it.
Yeah,
But my answer to that is in the Imperial Decree that I have in my sideboard.
that's
Again,
true.
very good. Like it's
That's
just
true.
very good
I think you have a lot of options for the Yi matchup in this
for
deck.
sure.
But yeah, I mean this
And
looks great.
yeah, it's definitely a list I'm excited about keeping together and playing. It's super consistent. I think it's got a chance to do really well, especially in the meta we're in right now. So I'm in love with it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on the call with me. Spend some
Yeah, of
time
course, it was a pleasure.
doing some yap sesh. I hope the viewers enjoyed this and got some value out of it. And yeah, we'll definitely see you guys again. We'll probably do an update on this whenever I do an update on my calling and stuff too, maybe in a few weeks. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Anything from you, Vishay?
Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.
Yeah, see y'all. Thank you.